got Trump on the run, scared. His insults about service members catching up with him. He's panicked. Losers and suckers, he called us, confirmed. Refusing to be seen with wounded warriors because it makes him queasy. Refusing to salute the fallen of World War I because he, quote, doesn't understand what was in it for them. Because he was afraid his dye job might run in the rain faster than he ran to a quack doctor when the draft board called his number. Comparing his sexploitations with the likes of Jeffrey Epstein to the sacrifice of those who went in his place to Vietnam. Now, maybe the greatest insult of all, turning a military cemetery visit into a political stunt with cameras in tow. In Section 60, one of the most hallowed acres of all, and when an Army civilian official told them they were breaking federal law that bans politics and campaign cameras, Trump thugs verbally and physically assaulted her. Disgusting. Donald Trump, the grave markers veterans and military families drop a knee to, are not your political props. They represent the heroes we served alongside. Men and women you could never measure up to. Friends who lived and died by the oath we all swore to uphold. Something you will never understand, and why we're doing our damnedest to make sure no service member ever has to salute you as Commander-in-Chief ever again.
Oh, I love that last bit there. So good. So good. Welcome back to the show, everybody.
I'm still waiting for a lie from them. They don't lie.
I know, right? I love their content that they put out. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. As promised, we have a very special episode lined up for you tonight. We are going to touch base on some topics that we have talked about on previous episodes. We're going to talk a little bit about the DNC because we actually have somebody on the show tonight that was there. Boots on the ground. Love it. We are going to talk about the Arlington incident again and get a little bit more into that. We're also going to talk about how Russia is just really infected. Russia. Not only the media and the influencers, I hate calling them that, but as politicians as well. The more and more that comes out is just the deeper and deeper it goes. And then we're also going to talk about the whole how disrespectful it was for Donald Trump to bring a 9/11. She calls it a truther. Put it in quotation marks, using that term very loosely. Laura Loomer. And we're going to discuss that again a little bit as well.
Let me tell you, it was disrespectful for Trump to be at the 9/11 memorial ceremony. How about that?
Yeah, that is very true.
There. Whatever.
But the reason we're going to go over all that stuff again tonight is because we have somebody that has a lot more insight on these topics than we do. So welcoming back to the show, very excited, Fred Wellman, host of On Democracy Pod and contributor for the Meidas Touch Network, former member of the Lincoln Project, retired lieutenant colonel, former Apache and Little Bird pilot. Jesus, I can go on and on. Veteran of
Blackhawks. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're not Apache. Blackhawks. Got one wrong. I'm doing all this for
I was a scout for Apaches. It's confusing, I know. It's an amazing resume. I love hearing it myself.
How have you been? I want to say
see you guys. Hey, you know what? I'm with VoteVets now too. I'm hosting their live show. I just started 3 weeks ago. I'm hosting their live show. So
that's awesome.
That's perfect. That's
3,000. We had 52,000 people for our post-debate spin room last week. So
oh, that's fantastic.
Did Trump show up in your spin room also?
We were live when Taylor Swift endorsed, so that was kind of fun.
Yeah,
that's hilarious. We actually made a short episode on that one. That Tennessee Brando is going to air on his channel because we just get a kick out of how these MAGA people are melting down over one person's endorsement.
I hate Taylor Trump. I hate Taylor Trump. Oh my God, what did I do?
All right, so let's get into it because
I'm the one drinking.
You're engaged, so go ahead. Hey, congratulations on your recent engagement.
Yes.
Thank you. It's weird.
And vacation. You've been busy guys since last time.
Yeah, I actually took a vacation. I laid on the beach and drank cocktails for 3 days, which I never do.
Sounds wonderful.
My fiance was very proud of me that I took time off. So now it's back to
trying to get the time in before we live in.
I actually ran that live. I did. We watched the debate in St. Lucia, and then I ran that live show from there, and then
that's awesome.
Drinking cocktails. Yeah, I'm pretty proud of myself. So.
Well, I'm sure you needed it.
Work never stops.
It's funny about the debates. Mike and I did a show right from 8 to 9, and then the debate was at 9. And we actually were joking around because Donald Trump was posting those cat and dog memes on True Social.
Like,
and I never in a million years thought this idiot would actually say it.
Said it.
Read the cats, read the dogs. Oh, bro,
yeah. So
well, what I loved about the debate, I just loved the way she kept laying the traps. Like we were watching, and both of us saw. Right? It's like, I mean, she just laid it out, and you can see his brain just go. You know, I was a Lincoln Project guy, so we specialize in getting inside this idiot's head, and I'm like, my God, she's good. I mean, you just throw the little crumb over. You know, people leave your mouth. You only inherited $400 million. It's like, and you just see, just you know, it's just.
I think he held it together.
She telegraphed. But he was too stupid to see it. It's not like she was hiding what she was doing.
No,
everyone knew what she was going to do.
Is the story came out saying in their prep, they did. They told him she's going to try and trigger you. He's like, okay, I'm ready. And then,
well, he had a crack team. He had a crack team or a team.
I think, honestly, I think he held his shit together until she starts digging at crowd sizes and how boring his rallies were.
He measures it, you know, like Obama said. You know, it's like, you know.
Yeah, he measures everything in size.
I was there. We were sitting in the stands, and I looked at the person. I said, "Did Obama just do a dick joke? Because that's amazing." You know, Now,
how was that experience with the DNC? Was that your first one?
I got to go. They invited 200 creators. It's really interesting because I had gone to their media walkthrough in March, and the numbers were. I mean, I had this big idea. I'd go as a media guy, right? And the numbers were staggering. Like, it ain't cheap, bro. I mean, you got to pay for electricity. It was like, oh fuck. So I actually pulled one of them aside. I said, man, how are you going to get like independent creators and new independent journalists like me? And they're like, yeah, we're actually thinking about that. And, a couple of years ago, I guess 2 cycles ago, 2016, Google had bought like a booth and then it had like a contest and got like 10 creators there, influencers. And then sure enough, about, just about 3-4 months ago, luckily a friend of mine who is the co-chair of the Veteran and Military Family Council for the DNC sent me and he said, hey, they're looking for creators. I'm like, I figured it's, TikTok kids, right? Let's be honest. I'm 60 years old. I'm like, whatever, I'll apply. and you guys know, I'm mostly Twitter and YouTube guy. And I'm pretty much a straight opinion journalist, right? But I applied and damn if I get approved. So 200 of us creators got invited. We weren't paid. There was this rumor we were paid. We were not. It was all out of pocket and it wasn't cheap. Just the hotel alone was nuts. But lucky I can drive us from St. Louis. And so 200 of us were credentialed as creators, they called us. And they gave us regular press pass and that's some cool events for us. A couple of after parties were kind of cool. And a couple of the sponsors kind of did parties for us, which is cool. But I was there to work. But for me, it was just such a cool experience being there as media and having the chance, because I went there as a journalist for Meidas Touch and then also Vote Vets. And so I kind of did I stalked like Media Row, and I was able to capture Jared Moskowitz. I did an interview with him in the hallway. I interviewed Pete Buttigieg, which was amazing.
Nice.
Tammy Duckworth, Lizzie Phillips. Yeah. And it was funny because the media, Ken Harbaugh's a good friend of mine, by the way. I see the comment there. Ken say, man, I'll tell you a war story from there. So Ken and I are good friends, and we're both Meidas Touch contributors. Ken was there as well. Ken's a retired Army or military officer like I am. He's a Navy pilot. We're good friends, and Ken's really good. Ken's just really competent. You guys know people like that, right?
I know that. Yeah, I watch a lot of.
I am not that guy. Ken is. And so Ken was kind of organizing all the Meidas Touch folks. And the best advice I got was a journalist in our group. We had a group chat for the creators, and this former journalist was there. And she said, she goes, here's my best advice to all the creators coming to DNC. Whatever plan you got, throw it out. Because it's going to be a madhouse. And man, it was, guys, it was nuts. I mean, you're talking 20,000 people inside the arena. And a lot of stuff that didn't even occur in the arena, it was over in the convention center. I mean, it was just great. Spread all over Chicago. It took 3.5 hours to even get in the arena the first night. It was nuts. And then, of course, inside the arena was just a madhouse. So I decided to do my guerrilla thing. I put all my equipment in my backpack. And I just kind of stalked hallways. So the first night I was getting nervous because I didn't have a lot of interviews the second night. By the 4 nights, by night 3, I was getting anxious because I hadn't gotten a lot of interviews and stuff yet. And I'm like, oh God, I have no content. You guys get it. I have no content.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to put a show on it. There's no. So I was freaking the F out. And Kev's like, dude, because they had studios, we could not rent, but you could book a studio, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie to you, I never figured the system out, but God bless Ken figured that shit out. Ken had like 10 slots, right? And Ken graduated, goes, dude, I got studio time. I'm like, okay. I said, so I grabbed Chris Jones, my friend from Arkansas, and Chris Jones, I did an interview. He's a dear friend. So I'm like, literally the hall, I said, Chris, interview now. He goes, okay. Ran up the studio, and made up an interview. And then Harbaugh's like, dude, I got a studio. I've got Spanberger. I got Congressman Spanberger, Abigail Spanberger. I said, great. I said, what are you going to talk to her about? He goes, well, I'm going to talk to her about national security stuff. He's a national security guy. I'm like, well, great. I want to talk to her about Project 2025 because that's a big theme of her race for governor.
Yep.
So we literally hot seated the studio. So Ken sits down. He interviews Abigail for 15 minutes. He punches out. I grab his mic, sit down. I interview for 15 minutes. I mean, so then Ken's. I can't say enough good thing about Ken Harbaugh, but it worked. That was DNC. It gives you great encapsulation of how it was.
I was going to say,
around. It was just crazy.
That gives a good idea because, like, I know they were talking a lot in their coverage when it was on air about embracing the digital media and the independent creators. And obviously, you're going to get a huge difference between how the DNC looks at media and the future of media and the RNC. I'm not talking about the atmosphere, which I can't imagine what it felt like in that arena.
It was,
but just as seeing the media almost be treated as what it should be, the respect that it should have if done right, if journalists are doing real journalism. And I think the embracing of the digital media, embracing of Gen Z, and just how maybe even that it's not just a Gen Z outlet now, digital media, independent media is the way forward. And they really embraced it.
And they were mad. I mean, the regular media was pissed at us. Let me tell you guys, I wrote a story about it. There was, I think I wrote my blog, my Substack about it. There was supposedly, you're not going to believe this number, 15,000 certified, whatever, credentialed media in Chicago. Now, mind you guys know, the entire parking lot of the United Center was vans. You guys know the deal. It's like, so those who don't know, these TVs, you'll see the two people on TV. There's literally 30 people making that happen. Right. Yeah. And so the majority of those credentialed media weren't journalists. They were producers and executives.
Support staff.
Right. But there was a good, let's just say, let's be generous. 5,000 freaking journalists. Right.
Yeah.
And then there was 200 of us. And they hated it. It pissed them off that we were sitting in the press section. It pissed them off that we had our own area. It came to a head the final night because we were sitting in the press seating. And the media was I didn't see regular journalists in the press seating at all, to be honest, most of the time. But the last night for Vice President Harris's speech, they had reserved whole seats, and the Secret Service is having none of it. They're like, look, if your ass isn't in a seat, you're not reserving a seat. And so all of us creators, we're like, we're here to see Kamala. So we were sitting there. Yeah. Oh my God, they're getting pissed. But it was interesting. But I did the hard work. I tracked down sources. I did interviews.
That's awesome.
So the story I tell is that last day, Thursday. Obviously, they told us all to go to the United Center like noon. Like usually you could get there at 4 or 5. I got there at 5, 6. But and the agenda started like 5:30 most nights. But for Kamala night, for the final night, they're like, you gotta go over at noon because
a lot of shoving and pushing.
Right. Secret Service is gonna be it's not a ticketed thing. There's X number of seats, there's double that number of people there. It's first come, first serve. And so they're like, look, if you guys creators, if you don't get over to the United Center, you're not getting seats. Yeah. And I was like, well, so the councils and caucuses had their own meetings at the McCormick Center during the day. And I don't know what they were thinking, but they had it in the afternoon that day. So the second Veterans and Military Family Council meeting was that day at like 1, which is late. And I'm like, and he still had to go all the way across Chicago to get to the United Center. And I'm like, you know what, though? Tim Walz had showed up at a bunch of those. I just had a hunch if he was going to show up at one more, it was going to be that one, Veterans, right? I called my buddy, and he's like, well, and he said flat out, he goes, well, I don't know. There is a chance Waltz will come, but we know for sure Wes Moore's going to come. And I love Wes Moore. Wes and I are old. I've known Wes for 12, 14 years. And I said, well, I'd love to see Wes. So I went over there. So get this, 15,000 credentialed media in Chicago. I was the only member of the media at the Veteran and Military Family Council meeting that day. Think about that. Okay.
That speaks volumes.
So the only one. Right. And I sat there and I saw there was like 5 members of Congress and the Senate, Governor Wes Moore, and then actress Busy Phillips showed up and gave a lovely speech. because she's just wonderful. And since I was the only media there, guess what? DNC Press was texting me while I'm sitting there in the front row saying, "Hey, do you want to interview Congressman X? Do you want to interview Busy Phillips?" Like, fuck yeah. Yes. Do I know what I'm going to say to Busy Phillips? Fuck no. and, you know, I'm literally Googling her. I mean, I knew she was in like Mean Girls, but I'm like, what the fuck else she been in? You know, and I'm like, I take my camera and my little portable lights, I throw them in the hallway. I interviewed actress Busy Phillips. Literally, the first 5 minutes of our interview is comparing our battle injuries, like my bad knees and her. We both got titanium knees, you know. And it'd be a great interview. But you know why I got the interview? Because I showed up.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, that's my next question. It's interesting that you told that story, because I'm curious if there is a sense among, I'll just say, the politicians themselves, amongst the candidates, amongst the rank and file of the party. Are they looking towards the new media? Are they looking towards the independent? Because they know there's not going to be a spin hit job. There's not going to be obfuscation of any of what they're saying. Is there a reluctance for them to go to those 15,000 media? And they're looking at these 200. And then you say you're having a whole event for veterans. You're the only person there. Like, where no one from traditional media wants to cover our veterans. You want to talk about them being a voting block, which we're going to get into how people treat them and how people view them. But you're not going to even like cover something. I don't know. Yeah. So I wonder, is that what we're seeing?
Choice, right? It's a choice. Well, look, I'm very critical of political media. I'm very critical of the political media. I believe the political media, and I don't lump them all together. Right? The defense media is different. They're all different. But our political media, the people who showed up in Chicago, they've become snobby. They've become full of themselves. Extremely. They've become the story themselves. And if you look at that one chance they had to talk to Vice President Harris and Governor Walz, she spent 10 of 15 questions asking about the shitty things that Trump had said about them. You know, it's like,
I know, it's like,
okay, then they had the audacity to say, we haven't heard about their policies. You didn't fucking ask about their policies. You asked about, Donald Trump saying she wasn't black. I mean, so make up your fucking minds. You can't have
then they get offended when she doesn't answer them the way they want to.
When I interview those guys, when I use Jared Moxfitz, I said, Jared, I said, Congressman, I love the new offense you're going on. I love the way that clearly the Harris campaign and the Democrats, and then not to blow smoke up yours, but you guys in Congress, especially the Oversight Committee, have made a conscious decision to go on the offense. And he was like, yeah, man. Nobody ever asked him that. He goes, yeah, I'll tell you what happened there, Freddie. He goes into this long, you should look it up. It's on my channel.
Will do.
He goes into a whole thing about, he said that was Hakeem, man. Hakeem Jeffries put me and AOC and all of us on that committee and Raskin so we could go after these guys, and so we're not taking their bullshit anymore. I said, and now the Harris is and the best comment you guys I get is when I'm not asking soft, I'm asking questions that I think my viewers would want. My approach to my journalism, and I am a journalist, is what do you guys want to hear? Look, I'm looking at the comments right here. I know what these people want to hear. My audience, I look at my stats. I know you guys too. My audience is ridiculously old. We're like 5% of my audience is 45 and up. It's so funny. Barb's like, Jesus, I haven't got a single subscriber on the age of 18. I'm like, great. And that's my audience. And they message me and they leave comments and they leave my videos on Meidas Touch, my show will get 2,000 comments. And it's like, and they're talking about, hey, Fred, this is what I want to hear about. And so I listen to my audience and I know they're interested in those things. And so I'm not just making shit up. It's not about what I want to hear about. I'm trying to reflect you, because one thing I learned, so I don't know if you guys know my background. I hope I'm not filibustering here. I apologize. So my background is, if you guys don't know, I was a pilot. You mentioned I was a pilot. But in Iraq 1, so I show up in Iraq. I'd gotten out of the military, went back in for 9/11, ended up in Iraq as a Black Hawk Battalion in the 101st Airborne, if you see it. I was a Black Hawk Battalion operations officer. Well, in that job, I just stumbled into taking care of our local Iraqis around our airbase at Q West. Q West became famous later with ISIS. And I was the founding father of Q West. I was the first guy to secure it. And one of them, not the. And so I ended up going out in that area, ended up building schools, ended up building a clinic for a doctor that was there, all these things. And so General Petraeus, who I'd known at West Point, came down. He said, I love this shit. Everybody should do this. And then Petraeus just started coming to all my events and stuff, right? So we had a ribbon cutting. General Petraeus would fly down and check it out. And thanks. And so one day, I also had been, so it was kind of famous in Atlanta because I'd been running for mayor of a little town in near Atlanta and went back in the army. So the media kind of knew who I was. And so one day I did an interview with CNN. And once I did one interview, they kept doing more. And so one day I made the anchor cry, right? on CNN. And Petraeus like, you should be a public affairs. I was like, all right, what's that? And so I left the cockpit, ended up being a guy who handled the media, the military. And my view was always my job as a public affairs officer, an official of the Army, was to inform the American public. It literally was our mission statement: inform the American public about the activities of their military. And I knew that as a father of kids who were in the military, 18, 19, my job was to inform you guys of what was happening in the military. Now, I just couldn't pick up the phone in 2005 and say, hey, everybody in America, what's going on? I had to go through the media. So for me, the media was my conduit to the American people.
Right.
And so now that I'm a member somewhat of this new media landscape as a creator, if you will, I feel it's my job to be there. Look, my viewers aren't going to get the chance to grab Jared Moskowitz in the hallway. My viewers aren't going to get the chance to grab fucking Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg was the biggest get next to Waltz and Kamala at DNC. Well, luckily I work with Vote Vets now. And Pete's like, hell yeah, I'll talk. As soon as Pete found out I was an Army officer, Pete's like, fuck, I'll interview that guy. So I got Pete for like 5-10 minutes. And we had a very substantive conversation about Project 2025, Pete loved it. I asked him, I said, how cool is it to have a sergeant major for the commander in chief? Right? Think about that. If you understand the military, every commander has a sergeant major. Every company commander has a first sergeant, right? Okay. So here we are. If they get elected, we're going to have the commander in chief who's going to have a sergeant major as the vice president. That's so fucking cool.
It's perfect.
He loved it. He was like, I love that idea. But I knew that my audience who are military veterans and stuff, they wanted to hear from Pete about that.
Yes.
They wanted to have a conversation about how what we call what average people call vibes. We in the military call that morale. And right now our morale is good. And so So I see my job as a journalist is to be a conduit for my viewers, because I am, for reasons I can't explain, I've been blessed to get to talk to fucking Pete Buttigieg. I don't know why, but for reasons I get to call people like that, So since I have that blessing, since I'm Forrest freaking Gump, I want my viewers to be able to learn something from that. Cool. I don't want to piss it away. I don't want to be up my own ass. And some of my fellow creators, they're great. A lot of TikTok folks, a lot of IG folks. A lot of folk, they were there talking other, like I wasn't there to interview other freaking creators. I mean, I love them all.
Yeah, no.
Time.
Yeah, right. There's a lot of good ones that I follow.
That's what you just said. It's interesting. That goes right into what I was going to ask you. You weren't there to interview other creators. You also said earlier that the corporate media has become the story. It's almost like they became what they wanted to cover. They became the celebrities, and now they're running the show. You said your viewers, we have always tried to talk about, we're trying to be the voice that people can relate to. And we always say, what questions you have, what do you want us to talk about? Because I think it's important that journalists and the field of journalism, the craft of journalism, used to be owned by the people. The whole point was the journalists were the voice of the people, to ask the questions, to hold our leaders accountable. And they stopped doing that. So now a
lot of them, like in the military,
a lot of them.
A lot. And that's why I love, that's why I'm a fan of the journalism. I say this all the time.
Yeah.
In Iraq, look, who taught me a lot about media? I'm not gonna lie to you. Guy named oh my God, I had a gin. Anyway, New York Times. Sorry about this, folks. This is what you get. This is Fred at night. You're stuck with me. So the guy, he's John Fisher Burns. Yes. A guy named John Fisher Burns. If you got time, Google that name, John Fisher Burns. He's a Brit. Not one Pulitzer, 2 Pulitzers. And he was the bureau chief of the New York Times in Baghdad and lived there. He lived there for like 4 or 5 years. John knew more about Iraq. John knew more about Iraq politics. John had seen more combat than I saw in my 22 fucking years and 4 combat tours, just being a journalist. And John, when I got there, my first job in the Army as a public affairs officer was briefly at Fort Campbell, and then General David Petraeus' spokesman in Iraq. Okay. Yeah. Go big or don't go. That's story of my life. Yeah. How hard can it be? Really fucking hard. And but John was great. I'd reach out to John, and John would call me up. And I was real blessed to have Petraeus as boss. And Petraeus' view was, because they used to teach in the schoolhouse that to rate stories to the media as positive, negative, or neutral. But the problem with that measurement is, and Petraeus and I felt the exact same way, which a negative story may be factually accurate. And as a government officials, as speakers for the United States government, a story that's factually accurate and is negative is on us. That was our view. It's like, okay, we fucked up. It's like, there's a
Yep.
funny story that came to me. Somebody figured out when one of the ministers of defense, one of the many ministers of defense we burned through, when he left, he went back to Crit. It was to Crit or whatever. It doesn't matter. Fallujah. He was in Fallujah of all places. And he took his armored vehicles with him, like these 4 armored SUVs, right? That we had paid like $2 million for. He wasn't supposed to, but what am I going to do? Drive out to Fallujah? Say, hey, give us our cars back. And so GAO did a report about it, and then like New York Times or somebody picked it up, and they called me up at like 10 o'clock at night, which was the job. You answer the cell phone, and they're like, hey, what do you have to say about this? Do you deny? Like, nah, we fucked up.
Yeah, right.
They're like, really? And I had that ability because my boss, Petraeus, said, be honest with the media. And if it's a negative story and it's true, then okay, sorry, we fucked up. And be honest with the American people and say that. So that's how I was raised. And it was like, that's how I feel. So good journalism holds me accountable. I used to be the guy on the other side of that, and it was uncomfortable. I used to joke when the New York Times calls. It's never great. It's like, okay, hi, what's up, John? What'd you find out? And it's just how it is. But now, like you said, now it's like it's not, and to their credit, the defense media. To another topic you guys brought up Arlington. The defense media is still on that story. That's not over yet. That there's still
the investigation is still active.
It is. I read that right before the show. It is actually still active. I actually have never seen you. Since we're talking about Arlington, I've never really seen you heated until this incident. It's honestly the first time I've ever seen you like pissed off. And you actually went on with Katie Fang. We actually have a clip of that from MSNBC. So let me play that real quick, and we'll talk about that.
Something I say often.
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Something I say often is anyone who served since 9/11, any of us who went downrange, anybody even didn't, are probably like 1 to 2 degrees of separation from someone buried in Section 60. So to actually get in a scuffle in Section 60, where it's the living part of the cemetery. I try to explain that to a lot of people that Section 60 is the recent burials. There was families there visiting their family members, and he disrespected that much. But this is what he does. I mean, you remember he blamed Gold Star families for giving him COVID, even though he got it probably at the big event for Amy Coney Barrett. He's never respected our service. He's never understood why we do it. And this is just yet another example.
So
that was the super spreader in the Rose Garden, right?
Yes. I've been to Arlington.
I'm the one that figured that out, by the way. that was the Lincoln Project. I'm the one that figured that out. I'm the one that put 2 and 2. I went on CNN because of that. Yeah, they didn't announce that, but they put pictures of the Gold Star event on their not Instagram, one of those old the photo page. And and I was like, wait a minute, because remember he said, "Oh, I probably got it because they love me. They're the military people. They hug me and they kiss me." That's what he was talking about. He was
speaking of the Gold Star families, he actually blames the Gold Star families for making a video and posting it on his social media.
That's the guy.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe
he's a fucking asshole because he's never responsible for anything. Nothing's ever his fault.
The scary part is there's no end to what he doesn't respect. You could disagree with people politically, right? I agree with nothing or maybe barely any little with most modern Republicans, right? But man, I could still respect service members. Like, how do you to plan? Because let's face it, that was a planned thing. And the family that was linked with him likes to pretend that they like to keep saying they invited him there. Okay, even if you did, the bells went off in his PR team and knew it was happening. But that's besides the point. Yeah. Where is his depths when it comes to the military? Or maybe I should say, what is going to break service members of their hold, of the hold that Trump has on them? I know not everyone, that's not what I mean, but how much more disrespect after years of it do we need to see by Donald Trump and even the Republicans as a whole? Where does it end? When do the military people in this country just...
He only got by estimates. He only 53% last time. You got to remember the military is a lot more diverse than we give it credit for. There is it's a classic situation where the other side is much louder. About it. That we on the progressive side, the military veterans tend to be a little bit quieter about it. But there's, look at the stage at the DNC when they brought all the various military veteran elected officials on stage.
That was amazing.
The stage was full, and so So there's a lot more of us than get. If you guys remember, that was my job at Lincoln Project for my first job was veteran senior advisor. I was organizer of veteran because our goal was, I placed ads. I put anti-Trump ads in Stars and Stripes, website. I mean, we had to actually find out it was legal. They were shocked. Like, fuck, it's legal. Okay.
Wow. That's great.
Turns out it's legal. So we were very aggressive in seeking out to bend military veterans and family members, say, hey, look, this guy's in force. The Kamala Harris campaign, I mean, to their credit, Harris Waltz, I just got a text from a friend of mine who's at an event in North Carolina right now with the military families organizers. A wonderful woman named Libby Jameson, who I've known for many years, is now the military family coordinator for the Harris campaign. They're putting real effort into it, and there's a lot of energy in the military. So, but you're right. We are peeling off. They are going away.
You think so?
It is. I do. I look. There's just so much. I have heard from fellow veterans. I've heard from military members saying this is just too much. They remember the chaos. What I'm trying to do a lot is remind everybody of the chaos. Did you know that during his administration, they literally had a person, the Joint Chiefs, whose job was to monitor the president's Twitter feed? He put out orders. I'm not shitting you guys. This is a true story. Part of the PAO team's job was to monitor the president's Twitter to see if he put out policies and orders via tweet. Because he did. He fired the secretary. He fired Esper via tweet. The transgender ban was sent out by tweet. Okay. So he actually forced. It's fucking insane. So I try to remind my fellow military members and veterans, like, hey, do you really want to go back to that? Do you really want to go back to a time where the president of the United States would just, on the whim, decide things?
I think during the debate,
no, the fuck, we're not pulling out of NATO. So I think you'll find that a lot of them will talk a good game, but I do believe it's breaking. I also say, guys, the military is a reflection of our society. There really is. We are the all volunteer military comes from you guys, all of you. Your kids, your dads, your moms, your uncles. And so we reflect the United States. There is just a fatigue. I mean, and Kamala's been doing a great job of kind of saying, "Aren't you just sick of it? Aren't you?"
Oh my God, yeah.
Are you? I think people are. I think people are just.
Do you think the joy approach is
great,
deliberate? Like, did they happen upon joy? Like, are they really recognizing and tapping into? There are people in this country who are so traumatized by COVID, by Trump, by a possibility of a new Trump, by everything that we are so starving for joy. Did the Democratic machine finally read its emails? You're right, because could they have done this? I know this is obviously has to be thankful to Harris's team. Did Biden's team not even try because they knew that wasn't the candidate that could pull this off? Like, was there even that thought, or was it we could still not be Trump? Like, are we finally breaking free?
Look, Mr. Biden or President Biden, out of all due respect, a wonderful president. I'm enthusiastic. I was one of the diehards. I was one of the diehards that after the debate said, nope, he's our guy. We're sticking with it. If he gets out, it's his decision to make. And by the way, if he does get out, it's Kamala. We're not having an open primary. Now that bullshit, which we ended up doing. We ended up having an open primary, but she locked it up in 10 hours. Nobody else ran. I tell people all the time, it's like, no, there was anybody could have ran. They just didn't want to. Having said that, but President Biden's old school. Joe Biden is a man of the time. Okay, he's been in public service for 50 years. He's a man of the 60s and 70s. It's who he is. It's his nature. A generation of stoicism, a generation of professionalism, a generation that says things like malarkey. Whereas Kamala is the generation that says motherfucker. Actually, I believe she says motherfucker. And so she's Gen X. She's 1 year older than me. And so we're a different breed than Joe. And Kamala's just a happy fucking person. Just look at her for years. She's always been like this. And so I think there was a big shift. And her campaign and what I saw at the DNC was and look, I told you I went to some previous DNC event. I went to the fall meeting. And then I went to the DNC itself, and it is a very, very different campaign that made a conscious decision that her weakness, the Republican want to say, was truly a strength. And you're seeing it. And then they picked Tim Walz. I mean, come on, it was genius. Another happy warrior.
Are we seeing the bridge? Because Jeremy and I have talked about this for a while. We have been nothing but impressed by Gen Z from a political perspective. These people are done with the bullshit. We are lucky enough to even be working.
Their whole life has been done.
We're lucky
We
enough
even have
to
a
even
Gen
have.
Alpha contributor.
I was just going to say our June correspondent, Addison Mayer, right?
Yeah, we
Gen
have a
Alpha
10-year-old contributor
Yeah.
who's into
is
politics.
who expected Gen X to be the bridge that took millennials, Gen Z, and a budding youth, a generation of youths to be like, okay, but we're not the really old ones. We might all be a little rickety, but we're not the crazy olds. Like,
Well,
I
you'll
didn't
find
expect that.
Gen X is interesting. You know, my generation. I'm senior Gen X, like me and Kamala and
I'm
frankly
late
Tim.
Gen
We're,
X.
we're
Yeah.
the late. Yeah, we're early. I'm the first. 1965 is the first year. I'm 65. So, I find that people my age and a little in my range can skew young or skew old.
Mm-hmm.
I skew young, obviously. I'm Mr. TikTok and all that, but that's because I got kids, And so my peers are like grandparents. I dated one when I first got divorced. I mean, I thought I was visiting my grandma's house. And she's I'm like, what the hell? Why are there doilies?
The plastic on the couch.
What is good? Yeah, oh yeah.
That's so funny.
I'm barely okay. I hope she's
Yeah.
not watching. She's a
great.
lovely woman, but yeah. So, but that joking aside, that is how our generation goes, right? And because we're in that middle class, 60s, early 50s, 50s, 45. And so I think a lot of so what you're seeing is, and that's where you see look at Kamala. She's joyous, she knows all the dances, she's still she knows all the pop culture. She skews towards a more millennial age. And Tim, in a lot of ways, kind of middle, because he's got teenagers.
Yeah.
So you've got this generation. That's Gen X is. I mean, we are one of those bridge generations between millennial and boomer. And so I'm thrilled. I mean, obviously we've always joked that we're the skip generation. And it's great to see, but I think people are going to see that Gen X has a lot to offer. And our generation has gone a weird way. We're if you look at the age ranges of who's skewing Trumpy, it is all Gen X. I mean, Gen X.
Oh yeah.
Gen X is carrying a lot of it, and it's scary. My white fellow Gen Xers are carrying a lot of the Trump movement, which is why I don't participate in any of my West Point groups. I'm a West Point grad. I dropped out of every one of my West Point alumni groups, but one, which is the one dedicated to progressive grads. All my class, 1987 class, I dropped because they're just
who just spoke there? Didn't Elon Musk recently or somebody speak at West Point? It was somebody.
Yes.
It just seemed like super inappropriate. Was that who? I can't remember. Yeah, I was like, that's not.
We're not counting boomers out. Don't. No, brother, we ain't doing that. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. It's funny. The funny thing about that. So, and I gotta tell that story. You'll appreciate there, General Putnam too. Is so the DNC did one of the DNC coordinators and organizers did an interview with ABC. I actually showed it on my show, a clip of it, and the interview was like, so why are you doing this creator thing? You really embraced creators. We're really trying to reach the younger audience, Gen Z, and activate them. And I'm like, bro, I'm almost 60 years old. And so on my show, I joked about how, I showed that clip, and I made a joke on my show about how all of us young people, and it was so fucking funny. Is like I get 2,000 replies like, I'm 65 and young, motherfucker. I'm 72 and young.
All right, so
like, yeah. But my point is,
I do want to ask
you don't know your audience. My audience, my older, like you got an older audience too. I can see. You know what mine do? Mine, thanks. You're cool. I love you. That's cool if you say that. It's the funny thing about that is that I lost my train of thought because somebody's being rude. My generation, I've said this to a lot. While Gen Z will get in there and do cool things like, activate, vote, our generation, my audience gives money. So when I have I do a thing on Meidas Touch called In the Hot Seat, where I interview candidates for Congress. They raise money. I had a Senate candidate from North Dakota. She raised $13,000 in one day from our audience. So our audience is very active. Our audience has got money. They're engaged, So I told the DNC very direct. I said, if you're targeting just the kids, you're effing up because a lot of people have cut the cord. A lot of people are just watching you guys and me. They've given up on TV. They're watching us for their media. And you know what? They got money. They got disposable income.
Yeah,
they
you're
can
right.
afford to give.
Exactly.
They can give $20 to a candidate in North Dakota because they can afford to. And so I tell my candidates all the time, don't discount the older generations in the internet era, in the YouTube era, and everywhere else, because they have heart, they care, they've got free time.
Yep.
Now, I want to get on to the 9/11 stuff here for a minute. Well, first, what did you like? Were you surprised when you found out these influencers, these right-wing influencers like Tim Pool and Benny Johnson were being paid by Russia. I know, right? Like
one of the least shocking things ever. Look at the Ukraine talking points these guys use. It's right out of the Russian playbook. It's not a coincidence that so many Americans are echoing. So many of these right wingers are echoing right out of, to include Tommy Tuberville, to include Ron Johnson, to include
that's making it the floor. I mean, we did a show where we went over, we actually detailed and showed what KGB, propaganda looked like from the mouths of the KGB. And it's literally is like a Mad Lib. They just put different names in. It's the same script. And now you can see it. You can't even hide it. Back in the day when this stuff started, we don't know what Russian newspapers said. Now we do, because we see the same media all over the place. It's the same talking points. It's fascinating. And there's a whole generation of people that are just eating it. And not generation, I mean like a whole group of people, not just a generation.
And the challenge is, there are studies done. I mean, the Russians did studies. Like, if you just feed people propaganda for 2 years, it becomes their fact.
Well,
it rewires your brain. I've seen it in family members. I have dear family members who I'll leave nameless and what the relation to me is, but they've been watching Fox News for years. They're older, and it rewires your brain in terrible ways. And they don't. It is meant to. They don't accept facts anymore. I see this in my mentions all the time on Twitter. I had an argument today. They just don't accept facts. It's like, okay, like, oh well, Democrats have been attacking us. And they'll put a meme up of like Pelosi like 8 years ago. I'm like, okay, that's enough. Okay, literally yesterday, Trump said I was the enemy of the people. Yesterday, I mean, literally yesterday, like every day, he's called me. A guy tried to attack the media members during his rally.
Beautiful.
They're evil, and that was last fucking week. So save me your bullshit that 8 years ago Pelosi said something offhand, because it's just their brains just can't. Oh, what about you guys burned the cities down? Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
They keep talking about Minnesota being burnt down or whatever. I'm like, I didn't get that memo.
That's the propaganda that gets fed to these guys. And by the way, circling back to the question you asked earlier, how come so military members are sucked up to this? Because they've been told for years Dems hate us. The Dems are commies. It's just us. You gotta be conservative. And look, I was one of those guys. When I was in the military, I was like, yeah, man, Dems hate us. Then I got out and I started doing veterans advocacy, and I saw Mrs. Obama and Dr. Biden start joining forces, and I got invited to their events, and nobody once asked what party was. Nobody ever asked if I voted for Obama, because, by the way, I never voted for Obama. Okay, but I got invited. I got invited to the White House to meet with Mrs. Obama's staff to help them coordinate a homeless veterans program.
We've seen the picture.
They didn't ask my political party. But you know what happened when Trump took office? When Trump took office, after he took office, I was never invited to an event again. I got snuck into a Wounded Warrior Project event, and then never got invited ever again to an event. And I'd gone for years. I was one of the top veterans advocates in Washington, D.C. I represented Wounded Warrior Project. I represented Home Depot. I represented GE. So anyway, then I kind of, my eyes were, the fog was lifted. I'm like, these people care. These are the people that passed the GI bill. These are the people that passed.
What did you? Because I know 9/11 is it's kind of has a special place in your heart, because I know you got out of the military, and then after 9/11 went back in. That was a nightmare.
Through a war, so I got
so
through a war, invited all my friends.
What do you think of Donald Trump bringing the conspiracy queen of the alt-right, Laura Loomer, to the 9/11 memorial?
It's almost, at what point does your outrage meter run out? I mean, at this point, my outrage meter's been pegged for so long with Donald Trump that it's hard to even care anymore. I mean, I hate to say, why did Donald Trump's fat ass show up? He's never been to one before, which was great. I don't know if you saw the clip. There's a C-SPAN clip of some lady yelling at him saying, "What are you doing here? I've never seen you here in 23 years." He's never shown up in 23 years. But his fat ass showed up because he had to. And then my favorite part was him and his little minion dressing the same. I mean, what a fucking loser, JD Vance.
Well, I made him.
Did you see they had matching outfits? Like, dude.
Oh my God, the pin and the flag and everything was in the exact
red
same
ties.
spot.
Like, okay, mini me.
Well,
Jesus
you
Christ.
said something interesting. I don't remember if you said rage or aggravation, but you've reached your limit. You can't get mad anymore. And maybe what we're finally seeing,
which was Arlington was a big deal, right? It was like, I know, you gotta kid me. I mean, really?
Maybe what we're seeing is this is an awakening, because he had his chance. He tried, he did his little coup attempt, and now we're so damn burnt out and ready for joy that more people than we ever imagined are willing to listen to, at very least, bring the country back to a place where we could disagree on a lot of things, but we should respect our institutions, we should respect our service members, and we should respect that we're all Americans and trying to make the best of our lives. And I think that
I was at a festival the other day in my hometown, Kirkwood, Missouri, which is kind of reddish now here in St. Louis. And I was wearing, and I've decided I'm going to wear my shit. You can see I'm wearing it. I'm not hiding. I got a sign out front that says Veterans Against Trump. And I went to this Green Tree Festival in my red hometown, wearing my vets for Kamala. And this gentleman stopped me in his booth. He said, "Oh, I love your shirt. It's good to see veterans with common sense." I said, "Well, tell me about that." So he goes, "Yeah, he was older than me." He said, "I voted for Trump the first time, and then he got in office, and it was just crazy. Like the stuff he did was crazy. And then there was January 6th. It was just crazier." He goes, I can't do it. I'm voting for Kamala." I'm like, "That's what I want to hear, bro."
Okay.
And it was a very nice conversation. I've had a lot of nice conversations with people. I've had a lot of people stop me with my shirts. I swear, was I walking today? A lady stopped in her car in the middle of the street and goes, "What's your shirt saying?" I'm like,
That's awesome.
It is. So I think there's something happening. Yeah, we're having these conversations. But no, I do think a lot of people are going, I just don't want to go back to the crazy, man.
Nope.
And look, again, saying all the nice things about President Biden and what he's done. But look, man, he was 82 years old, and it's just he's lost his fastball.
Old with a stutter.
He lost his fastball.
Insane.
Yeah, he lost his fastball.
Fine.
I just
never had the energy to prosecute this.
But he had the balls to give it up. I wish people would not underestimate
unreal.
The example of, you cannot get more of an example of sacrifice in a political context.
Washington. You got to go back to Washington. Honestly, I believe that. I know.
I cannot
believe Washington stepping aside. It's Washington saying, "No, I got to go home."
I feel like there was almost a need for it as an exclamation point to say, not only did I beat you by the biggest margin ever, Donald Trump, but now when I could still cling to power and maybe beat you again, I'm going to give it up and let the next generation kick your ass.
They stole his whole identity by doing that. Yeah. Hey, if you guys, I don't know, I don't think Mike has seen it yet, but because I'm sure, Fred, you've heard the rumors about how close Laura Loomer is with Donald Trump, and that a lot of people are not happy about it.
Fiance. I was talking about.
Have you seen her response video? All right, I'm gonna play this. This is Laura Loomer responding to the rumors that she and Trump are having a sexual relationship, and it's bad. It's bad. It's bad.
So malicious, so disrespectful to Donald Trump and Melania Trump. They've taken it so far. And if I was a leftist journalist, if I was a Democrat, oh my God, the media would be up in arms if the Republican media was doing this to a left-wing journalist. Oh my God, they're misogynists. They're bullying a woman. They're trying to Monica Lewinsky her. They're demonizing her. They're trying to discredit the fact that she's a working woman. I mean, look, I know that Kamala Harris sucked dick to get where she is today, okay? And she had to sleep with Willie Brown in order to get to the top. But some of us women, right, we actually work hard. Some of us women have no desire to have sexual affairs with politicians or men with elite political status to climb the ladder. I know that Kamala Harris can't say the same, but, believe me when I say that that's not me. Or as Kamala Harris likes to say, they ain't like us, right? She ain't like me. I ain't like her. Okay, I don't suck dick to get to the top. That's what Kamala Harris does.
Okay, there it is.
I just like to point projecting.
Out. She is actually clutching pearls. She is wearing pearls. She is.
Was she really
clutching her actual pearls?
Just look, ugly ain't just skin deep. And just it's just a horrible person, and she's just disgusting. The fact she's even traveling with the former president at all, showed up the debate with him, just says everything you need to say about
Why
him.
Was she
look,
on
he's down, but this is who he's down to, you guys. Look, here's Fred's view. This is just like let him talk. What's the joke? Operation Let Him Talk.
Operation
Let Him Talk. Every time JD Vance goes on TV, I'm like, great, man, keep talking. You're doing a great job.
My God, he admitted to lying.
Yeah, he's just an idiot. So it's just, Jesus, dude. And so the thing about her and just even being in the presence of him just shows you just how far he is. That's who the second administration is going to be. The adults in the room that were in the first administration,
they're gone.
They're gone. Even the Bill Barr, they're gone. They're not coming back. 40 out of 44 of his former cabinet officials have said they will not support, which means it's going to be
Right.
one window into Trump too. Just look at what happened after January. All those nut jobs and strap hangers and
Yeah.
ball lickers and ass polishers that came in after January 6th. That's Trump too.
Yep.
That's going to be this McEnany guy. That's going to be this Cash fucking Patel. I mean, it's going to be the dregs of
The
society.
pillow guy is
Charlie
going to be
Kirk.
media relations or something.
Adele, it's gonna be those fucking people, all the ball polishers, and that's what Trump.
Sheldon.
It's going to be Laura
Sheldon.
Loomer's. Laura Loomer is the spokesman.
The hot
Those are the only people that will go work with them. It's not going to be the people. Look, I had friends who actually joined the first Trump administration because they're lifelong Republicans. They'd waited 8 years for an opportunity to serve, and they came to me and they said, especially in the VA, a lot of the veterans, a lot of the VA guys, and they said, Fred, I want to serve. I actually helped a couple good jobs because I still had good relations then with the VA. And two of the guys I put in got hired, and senior officials. And I said to him, I said, look, man, it's not going to go good for you because you rarely see people walk around other than fucking Roger Stone saying proud member of the Nixon administration. And I said this in 2016. I said, that's where it's going to go. That's where this thing's going, y'all. This is not going to be a resume polisher for you.
It's Jonestown. He's going to turn the White House.
Resume black mark. And I'm not proud to say, but I told you so.
Right.
A lot of people try to delete Trump administration from their resumes.
It's funny you said that because I, like the other day, just finished Tim Miller's book, Why We Did It. And amongst many different character traits, he ascribes to people who I'll say were complicit in Trump's rise. It's the people that I find the most actually compelling that were the ones that were like, I've served my whole life. I'm going to put the blinders on because I need to complete what I feel is my life's path of service.
Yeah.
And I think those are the ones that you saw resigning. Those are the never Trumpers now. Those are the people that were vocal about it. And those are the people I think I could forgive the easiest.
Yeah.
But you're saying the same thing that he did, that there are people that are like, I just want to serve. I'm a Republican. This is what I want. And then they saw, like they went in first day with their backpack and they realized it was like a frat house where everyone was already drunk.
And it was more like, it was always sort of like Lord of the Flies. If you look what happened to the VA, I mean, the insanity of the VA, it's easy to forget the Mar-a-Lago 3, where Ike Perlmutter and two of his buddies were an illegal informal advisory board that they had a cabinet secretary, the second largest government agency, reporting to three of Trump's buddies from Mar-a-Lago who were trying to get contracts for their kids, literally reviewing the contracts for the electronic health records. Just illegal. It literally is against the law. You had this constant skullduggery. Those guys I helped get jobs calling me up saying, "Oh my God, they're trying to fire me." Jesus, dude, just do your job. I've heard none of that since Biden took office. Right. He's had one cabinet secretary leave. One.
Well, we have there's audio of JD Vance, because I know you talked about this a long time ago. You made a project 2025 regarding the civil servants and what they plan on doing with them. We have audio. We have audio of JD Vance. They said that they're going to fire the civil servants and basically defy the Supreme Court.
Yes.
When it goes, because
they're even looking at if you donated to a Democrat, they're going to.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It doesn't even be terms for firing. So doctors,
it's McCarthyism.
VA,
Holy shit!
Guys who handle my benefits, military. Think about the military. People don't realize the military is run by civilians because us military guys come and go every 2 years. The headquarters or it used to be Atlanta. I think it's at Fort Liberty now. That headquarters that runs all the units in America, those are mostly civilians. Those are the guys who've been there for 10, 12 years. Those are the guys who decide which units are going to deploy. It's not some military officer just got there a year ago. And so when you fire all those people because they're not loyal enough to the fat orange ass, and you've got real problems. They're going to undermine our national security in real ways. And then when you start firing generals and promoting people like Mike Flynn, putting Mike Flynn back in, I mean that's
Dear God.
That guy.
Then you see,
he's bonkers, man.
Yeah,
he's a piece of garbage.
He's suing.
He was going around the country telling people that they were injecting trackers underneath their skin. With the COVID vaccine.
He's suing me for a life. He's suing me for a slander. So
I'm out. That's right.
$150 million. $150 million, y'all.
Yeah, and let's
get all my money.
That's
if
pretty
Donald
awesome.
Trump gets back in the office, RFK Jr. would be in charge of Health and Human Services. The guy with the brain worm. Just great idea.
He's now officially I believe they're officially investigating him for the whalehead situation.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
another one.
that's gonna be a
Elon
lot more,
Musk
'cause
will
he
be
keeps
part of
admitting
Donald
things.
Trump's cabinet. That's already definite.
Oh my God.
It's like
Well,
it'll
let's
be a
look
shit
forward.
show.
I mean,
It'll be an
let's
absolute
do
shit
let's
show.
do what we should do though. Here near the end here, because I got to what I've been noticing lately on my show, especially, is people are sick of that shit, right? We're all sick of that shit. Let's look what we got going on. What we got going on is we got Kamala and we've got Tim Walz, who are decent people. I had the most fascinating interview 2 weeks ago. A friend of mine named John Del Volpe, and John runs the Institute of Politics polling at the Harvard Institute of Politics. I've known him for 20 years, and John's been surveying Gen Z and millennials since 1999. He's the every twice a year. Anyway, so John and I are talking, and John just happened to be in Minneapolis the night that Governor Walz got the pick for the VP. He was running a focus group just for a separate project. But he said, since we're here, in the last question, he said he asked all my hair. He said he asked all the just crazy. He asked the focus group, like, tell me about Tim Walz. Tell me about Governor Walz. And they said, he's just a guy, almost to a person. So the thing we like about him is he's just a guy. He doesn't have a stock portfolio. He's not a CEO.
Nothing. Yeah, I read that.
He's just
He's
a
a
guy.
dude.
He's the dude. He's the dude. He's your favorite social studies teacher. He's the dude. He's your neighbor. He's your neighbor that will bring in the extra cookies that they cook.
Yep.
Yeah, he goes
he's just
hunting.
a guy.
He loves animals.
And if you look at him, he is just a guy, and that's what
he's
he's genuine
with his kids.
He's genuine. He's the real. That really is him, and he loves the look of wonder. Like, oh my god, I milked the cow. It was so cool. And, it's like he's just a regular dude. And I have friends who live in Minnesota. They said the same thing. So we have an opportunity here. In just 6 weeks from today, the day we talk, in 6 weeks we elect two middle class people who grew up, one with a single mom, one in a middle class Nebraska home, taught. One's a career. She has more government public service than anyone who's run for president, like 50 years. 21
but
years.
she has no experience. Experience.
She's the most experienced candidate for president in the modern history. And so
she literally is.
So we had an opportunity.
Forget how many times she's been elected for different positions.
And won.
She has won elections.
It wasn't because of what Laura
public
Loomer was
service.
alluding to. It was nothing to do
Correct.
with that. Somebody said really well. I saw a woman do an interview. She goes, unless she blew 50,000 people in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
that's a good point, I guess. But the point being,
Now
we have an opportunity looking forward. Because I'm sick of this fucking guy. I'm sick of looking at these idiots. I'm sick of them popping up my radar. I'm ready to move past. And you got people like Kamala and Tim. And imagine the qualified people that they're going to bring into their administration. Imagine the kind of level-headed, the Pete Buttigieg. Imagine what he'll do as Secretary of State. Imagine what we could do. Imagine how we could shake things up with
get Stacey Abrams in there.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many qualified people, younger people.
Well, they're even talking about
Joe Biden. Joe Biden really has got a limited circle. If you know, one of the things that people criticize Mr. Biden for is that he has a very limited circle. They have a very small circle, right? Because he's been in business. He's been, that's the thing. But she ain't like that, and Tim ain't like that. They're just going to seek the most qualified people they can find.
She's a big open tent person.
Big tent person. Yes.
The Democratic Party was the big tent, but it never opened the tent for the people. It just said, we have all these people here, but now you're seeing what is the beginning of an administration that is going to look like America for the first time. Not just,
I can't wait to see
just
who
racial,
applies,
not background, but age. We're seeing older, younger, just people from different generations coming together to govern.
We've been dealing with this bullshit for 10 years now. And since Trump's left office, shit has gotten so much worse because of him. Like the amount of violence and school shootings have gone up, and just it's
trying to move forward, and that's why I'm excited. I look forward to. I mean, look, I'm not delusional to think that we'll put MAGA behind us because they get like we thought we would. I never thought we would 4 years ago, but Trump's older. We've seen what JD Vance represents in the future. You're seeing failure. You're seeing failure at the local level now. People are sick of it. You're seeing the moms, your friends at Moms for Liberty are starting to fail. People are waking up like, no, this isn't working. Now imagine have a presidency that is energized and positive and is out there with the people. If you're going to go, this is a better way forward, and it'll trickle down. And I have great hope. So I'm very hopeful. I mean, it's weird to feel that way. I every time I say
it is weird.
Oh my God.
Hillary,
Hillary 2016, don't get cocky. It's like, no, dude.
It's different.
It's different. Well, just an example, one today. I don't know if you guys saw this, but there's a story. I actually downloaded a copy of it. we have 4% undecided. It's the lowest number of undecided voters
I saw
at this
that.
point.
Yeah.
At this
Really?
point in the 21st century. Yeah, 4%. It's the lowest undecided number at this point in the election in the 21st century.
It should be
in
zero.
In 2020 it was 8, and 2016 was 10. And I tell people all the time, understand
That is a Trump effect.
you
And not
know
in
him,
his
but you
favor.
know him. You know
Yeah.
Trump, right?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
people, the old saw has always been, well, Trump gets underpolled. He did in 2016 because there was 10% undecided.
Yes.
And they were hiding. And let's not forget, I know people don't want to hear this. You're going to get negative comments, but a lot of people didn't want to let Hillary Clinton. Okay, because do you know how we're tired of Trump? See, people forget this because
we were tired of the Clintons.
People were tired of the Clintons, right?
Yeah.
You got to remember, Bill Clinton came in office in 1992, y'all. And so here we are in 2016, and we're put Bill Clinton back in the White House after all the scandals of his administration. And so a lot of people at the time were just like, I just can't do it. And so this is not 2016. Now, having said that, we got to do all the work. We got to get our friends and neighbors out. We got to wear our gear and show our colors. We got to invest. I love Hillary too. I think she was terrific. I voted for her. She was my first Democratic vote. I'm happy to admit that. She's my first Democratic vote, and I don't regret it at all. I think she's done a better number of times. I briefed her in Iraq. I briefed her 2 times in Iraq. I really enjoyed it. She's very, very smart. She asked really hard questions. I enjoyed the hell of it. But the problem is, in many of the ways we were tired of the Trumps, we were also kind of tired of the Clintons at that point. And so this is a fresh way forward. This is a fresh way forward with none of that baggage of. So I feel this is not 2016. That few of undecided means that. So what does that tell me as a political operative? Because, other than all the stuff you mentioned in my bio, I also help campaigns. And for me, what I hear when we're at 4% undecided 6 weeks out, that means our job right now is one job: turn out the vote, y'all. Turn out the vote, because this election is not going to hinge on those undecideds. It's going to hinge on every one of the ones that have decided getting their ass into the voting booth and voting for Kamala and Tim. That's it.
Perfect.
And so,
thanks, Fred.
So a lot of our energy, that's key. That's where I'm putting my energies, y'all. Turn out.
Yeah, we got a lot of work to do. We always say we can't lose focus. Thanks, Fred, for being on the show. I know you got to get out of here, man.
Appreciate you guys. Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, and I know you're real busy, so I do appreciate you taking the time to come on our
humble show. Thanks to your guests. I love the comments. Thanks for good seeing even you, Mr. Troublemaker.
Yeah, we even had Addison pop in here. She's our 10-year-old contributor. We have her on the show.
I love it. Hi, Addison.
She's
the best.
She's accomplished more at 10 years old than I probably ever will.
That's how it is.
Yeah, no, we're done. We're not even bothering anymore.
I'll be working for Addison in 10 years going, okay, I'm campaign manager. I'm just a senior advisor.
She's awesome. All right, Fred. Thanks for coming on the show.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate everybody watching the show. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and have a good night.
Follow on to Moxie Pod.
There you go. The Skullduggery. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good night, everybody.
And put that all in the context of people who have been talking about how he was when they served with him in the White House. People who saw him every day. His national security advisor, his defense secretary, his chief of staff, and his vice president. All of whom have warned America Donald Trump is not fit to be president of the United States. And to never occupy our nation's highest office again. So, North Carolina, I believe it all comes down to this. We are here together. We are here together because we love our country. We love our country. And we together understand the awesome responsibility that comes with the greatest privilege on earth. The privilege and pride of being an American.